Everyone, and thank you for attending this meeting this evening on PIN number 8757.65 Drewville Road over West Branch of the Croton River Bridge replacement. If I could ask everyone to rise now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance by the United States of America, which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would now like to turn over some brief introductory comments to Alexis Hawley, who is our project manager for Putnam County, and she will give a brief bit of information about this meeting this evening, and then turn it over to our consultants. Alexis, can you hear us?
Thank you, John. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the public information meeting for PIN 875765 Drewville Road Bridge over the West Branch of the Croton River. Tonight we'll be presenting an overview of the project and the project objectives, and then opening the meeting to any questions and comments that you may have. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to our design consultant, McLaren Engineering Group, for the review of the project.
Okay, hello Alexis. Let me just share my screen. I see the host has disabled screen sharing. I'll be able to correct that, and then I can get my presentation. Here we go. Okay. Would you be able to turn on the screen sharing by any chance?
We're working on it. Give us 1 second.
Okay, sounds good.
You just had it, it showed up. Yeah, these folks said share screen right there. There you go. That's her sharing her screen. She needs to make him a presenter.
Okay, so you're the host.
Okay, sounds good. All right, can everyone see the slides now? Should just be a single slide.
Yes, we can see the slide.
Perfect. Okay, so I have a different slide with my notes that I'm going to go through. Okay, just a quick rundown of the agenda. So Alexis, thank you for the introduction and going through the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to go through the design consultant's presentation, and then we'll return to the county staff to go through the attendees' comments and discuss the format of that. So I'll just go on to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so as I was introduced, my name is Gavin Daly. I'm an engineer with McLaren Engineering Group, which is the firm retained by the county to design and oversee this project. So this project is PIN number 8757.65 Drewville Road Bridge, which is County Road 36 over the West Branch of Croton River, which is located in the town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York. And the goal of this public information meeting is to outline the purpose, the use, and the benefit to be served by the project. We'll discuss the location of the project and the reasons for the selection of that location, and the general effect of the project on the environment and residents of the town of Carmel and the county of Putnam. So for this presentation, I will cover some background information on this project and how it has come to be. I will then present the design objectives of the project and how the project is being funded. And next, I will review the design alternatives that were evaluated by the county and ultimately discounted for various reasons. After that, I will describe the preferred alternative in some detail and why it was chosen by the county as the preferred alternative. I will then recap the project, after which we will take formal public comments and questions for the record. So this meeting is being recorded. An audio-visual recording will be available at the county's website, which is www.putnamcountyny.gov/highways projects. And additionally, various documents will be made available to the public for examination by appointment and with adherence to proper health protocols at the Office of the County Executive and at the Office of the Putnam County Clerk. Any person who would like to examine these records should contact the County Office at 845-808-1142, extension 49301 to make an appointment. So for the public, we would like to have your input on this project, and there are two ways to do this. The first is tonight at the end of this presentation, where we'll have some time for comments. And if you don't feel comfortable speaking up, or if you think of something later, following tonight's session, you will also be invited to submit written comments or other documents relating to the proposed project. Your written comments and documents should be addressed to the Commissioner of Highways at the department's office at 842 Fair Street, Carmel, New York, 10512, or emailed to drewville.publichearing@putnamcountyny.gov. And these written comments and documents received before September 7th will be included in the record of this meeting. The notice of tonight's public meeting was published in the county's weekly newspapers. In addition to publishing the notice of this meeting in the newspapers, the county mailed notices to property owners, the town of Carmel, and schools potentially impacted by the proposed project. Also available tonight for public inspection is a printed copy of the draft project scoping report and design report prepared by McLaren Engineering Group. It includes many of the technical details related to the project, including the scope and evolution, alternatives considered, and environmental matters. The report is broken into 3 chapters and supporting appendices. I'll just give you a brief summary of the contents, and then we'll proceed into the main technical presentation. So chapter 1 of the design report provides an executive summary, which highlights the needs and objectives of the project with anticipated impacts and mitigation measures. It also provides high-level cost estimates and a summary of public involvement to date. Chapter 2 includes a history of the project and surrounding land uses. It documents the existing transportation infrastructure that is in place and explains the 4 alternatives that were considered and dismissed, and why the second alternative was ultimately identified by the county as the preferred alternative. Chapter 3 details impacts and associated mitigation and permitting requirements the project may have on social, economic, and environmental considerations. Lastly are the appendices, and these include backup material that was used to compile various components of the report. The PowerPoint presentation prepared for tonight's meeting, as you can see on the screen, so it'll contain technical information on the project corridor, and it'll be posted on the website. And finally, all written public comment submissions received by the county will be collectively entered into the meeting record. And now I'd like to transition more to the more technical portion of the meeting. Just a highlight of the funding. This project is a federal aid project that's locally administered by Putnam County. 80% of the funding comes from the federal government, 10% from New York State, and 10% from the county. The federal funding is routed through the New York State Department of Transportation, otherwise referred to as NYSDOT, which oversees the project. In this case, Steve McAvery of NYSDOT acts as the reviewer from the state to ensure federal guidelines are met. And on the county side, Fred Pena of the Department of Highways and Facilities oversees the project, while Zen Wojcik is responsible for day-to-day operations, with Joe Bellucci as the project manager. And as noted earlier, McLaren Engineering Group is the design consultant. And I'll now introduce the rest of the McLaren design team, my colleagues Paul Owens and Jim Bridges. And now Paul will take on the first half of the design presentation, and then I'll jump back in to close everything out. So I think, Alexis, I'll stop my share and you'll have to make Paul the host.
Gavin, I think you have to switch it at the bottom.
Oh, I do? Let me see. Let's see. Okay.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending this meeting. As Gavin mentioned, my name is Paul Owens, and I'm an engineer with McLaren Engineering Group. And we're going to tell you a bit about the technical side of this project, the Drewville Road Bridge replacement. So this is an overview of what we'll discuss. We'll start with a brief introduction to the project, where it's located, who's involved, and an approximate schedule. Then we'll get into the purpose, what the project entails, and why it's taking place. After that, we'll present a few solutions and ultimately show the proposed design of the new bridge. So let's start with an introduction to the project. The bridge is located on Drewville Road between Cherry Hill Road and Seminary Hill Road in Carmel, New York. It's about a mile west of Putnam Hospital at the north end of Croton Falls Reservoir. There are several key stakeholders involved with this project. First and foremost is the owner of the bridge, Putnam County, as well as the town of Carmel and local residents and road users who cross the bridge regularly. We will also be coordinating with Putnam Hospital Center and emergency services for their input and to ensure that they are notified and can plan for the construction in the area. We are also working closely with the New York City Department of Environmental the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and New York City Department of Environmental Protection, as they own the land on either side of the bridge. Other stakeholders include the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and local utility companies, New York State Electric and Gas, Central Hudson Gas, and Comcast. So before we get into the details of the project, let's look at a broad overview of the timeline. Currently, the project is in between the preliminary and detailed design phase. And prior to detailed design, the project must first obtain design approval by the New York State Department of Transportation. This is expected to occur in the next 1 to 2 months. When the project moves into detailed design, the plans and right-of-way acquisitions will be progressed further and permitting applications will be submitted. These tasks should occur over the fall and winter of 2021, at which point the project will be submitted to the Department of Transportation for final design review. After their review, the plans will be finalized in the early spring of 2022, where once again, the project will be submitted to the DOT to obtain authorization to advertise the project for construction. Construction is then expected to begin in the late spring of 2022 and finish in the fall of 2022. Now move to the purpose of the project. So what exactly is this project and why are we doing it? The existing bridge was built in 1930, making it over 90 years old. It is reaching the end of its usable lifespan and it's deteriorating rapidly. The bridge is functionally obsolete, meaning it does not meet modern highway design standards. The 9-foot lanes are very narrow and 1-foot shoulders do not provide room for pedestrians or bicyclists. There is severe steel corrosion throughout the bridge, as you'll see in the next few slides, and there is significant risk of flooding at the bridge during heavy rainstorms. You can see in the image on the right the water level that the river has reached, and notice how the steel corrosion is greatly affected by it. Based on these factors, this bridge is a high priority for replacement. Here are a few pictures highlighting the steel corrosion in the existing bridge. The bottom left picture shows one of the 4 heavily corroded bearings that support the main girders of the bridge. Above that is a picture of the top of that bearing. There is some severe section loss in that girder bottom flange, which is one of the horizontal steel plates on top and bottom of the girder. That jagged line there should be going straight across. In the top right corner is a picture that was taken from underneath the bridge, looking out towards the side of the bridge where one of the 2 main girders is exhibiting more significant section loss, shown by a large hole in the web, which is the main vertical steel plate of the girder. The girder is labeled a primary member, which means this is a piece of the bridge that directly supports the loads on the bridge. During an inspection of the bridge in November 2017, it was determined that significant portions of the end floor beams, which are the members that run perpendicular to the road and support the bridge deck, had deteriorated. A red flag was issued for the bridge, which means a member has either failed or is likely to fail before the next inspection. The bridge was temporarily closed for repair and was reopened 2 weeks later after timber shoring was installed to support those end floor beams. The top 2 pictures show this timber shoring. In the bottom left is another picture showing the corrosion of the bearings, and in the bottom right you can see more holes in the primary members. With these repairs, the bridge remains safe, but these issues must be permanently addressed as soon as possible. On top of the bridge, there is some minor deck cracking and asphalt patches to repair damaged concrete. As of 2 years ago, this section of Drewville Road carries 4,860 vehicles per day, and that number is expected to grow to around 5,100 in the next 10 years. The lane and shoulder widths do not meet current design standards, and the shoulder width is unsafe for pedestrians and cyclists. This brings us to the objectives for this project, what we're trying to accomplish. The first objective is to restore the bridge condition rating to a 5, which is good, or greater for at least the next 75 years. Other objectives are to improve overall traffic conditions and to meet current New York State DOT engineering standards that would have the least impact on natural, socioeconomic, and other environmental factors. Here we have the design criteria for the project, which shows how the safety of the road will be improved and meet modern standards. The posted speed limit is 40 miles per hour, and that won't change. However, the existing lane width will be increased from 9.4 feet to 11 feet, and the shoulder width will be increased to 4 feet on each side of the bridge. These increases not only make the road safer for drivers, but pedestrians and cyclists will also benefit from the added shoulder width. The widths of the lanes and the shoulders on the approaches, which is the road leading up to the bridge, will stay at their existing 11 feet for the lanes and 1 to 3 feet for the shoulders. One of the controlling factors in the preliminary design of the bridge was the consideration of hydraulics. The existing bridge is low enough relative to the river that the water level can rise above the bottom of the structure. You can see this in the bottom picture on the right. The lower portion of the steel is discolored from water. Additionally, debris can become trapped underneath the bridge, which can block water from flowing through freely and increase the potential for flooding. To mitigate flooding risk, the proposed bridge will be constructed on a higher profile, which will raise the bottom of the bridge and allow the river to flow freely. There are also high-risk scour conditions at this site, which means that over time, the flowing water erodes the soil that supports the abutments. Because of this, the abutments of the existing bridge will remain in place to protect the new abutments from scour damage caused by the flowing water. These pictures were taken on August 12th of this year following a series of thunderstorms. The pictures on the left and top show how close the water level got to the existing bridge. In the bottom right corner is a picture of a spillway that is about 2 miles upstream of the bridge. The spillway holds back the West Branch Reservoir and is controlled by the DEP. They can control the release of the water from the reservoir up to a certain flow. After that, any excess rainfall from storms spills over the top. Raising the bridge will reduce the risk of flooding due to storms like this one. At this point, I'm going to turn this slides back over to Gavin, who's a senior engineer on this project, and he will discuss the alternative solutions and the proposed design.
Okay, thanks, Paul. You'll just have to make me the host again.
Paul, if you check the bottom of the screen, the bottom menu, there's an option.
I think I found it here.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, I got it. Okay. Okay. So you guys can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I'm back, and I'll now present the potential options considered during the preliminary design process. So thank you, Paul, for the introductory design presentation. Okay. So alternatives. So when considering the replacement of an existing bridge, all potential possibilities are given equal consideration. The first option would be to do nothing and leave the bridge in place. So it's called the null alternative. Second would be to replace the bridge on its existing alignment with an entirely new structure at the same position. The third alternative would be to try to repair the bridge to extend its service life. And the fourth would be to replace the bridge with a new structure adjacent to the existing bridge on a new alignment. So for the first option, as I described as known as the null alternative, the existing structure would remain in place with only maintenance type repairs performed. The bridge would continue to deteriorate, posing a potential safety hazard, leading to the eventual closure of the bridge. This obviously does not meet the project objectives. As you can see on the left, the low elevation of the bridge exposes it regularly to water, leading to severe corrosion of the steel girders. You can also see a kind of a greenish tinge to the bottom of the girder. That's how high up the water elevation goes and leads to the corrosion of the bottom of the steel girder. On the right, you can then see the temporary timber shoring supporting the bridge, without which it could be closed to traffic. You had a closer up view of that timber shoring in Paul's slides earlier in the presentation. Okay, so following on from the null alternative is the next option, which is to replace the bridge on its existing alignment, which is the preferred alternative of the county. The new bridge, which would be designed to modern standards, would have a service life of 75 years or greater. The alignment would be shifted slightly to the north to improve intersection geometry and improve overall driver safety. Keeping the existing bridge alignment will keep environmental impacts to a minimum, as less trees and wildlife habitats will be impacted. The new bridge will be longer to improve hydraulics by increasing the size of the opening through which the river can pass. The profile of the bridge will be raised, lifting the bottom of the bridge away from the high water elevation to mitigate flood risk. The new bridge will be wider to better accommodate vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycle traffic. And both steel girders and concrete box beams are being considered to form the superstructure, so the load carrying element of the bridge. And for this option, bridge closure would be required with a temporary detour provided. Now, the third alternative considered was rehabilitation. And for this, major structural repair work would be involved, with a bridge closure and temporary detour also required. While the lifespan of the bridge would be increased, it would still need to be replaced in about 25 or 30 years. The existing bridge is a through girder design, which means it has two deep girders on either side. The girders are heavily corroded and need to be replaced. They cannot be repaired in place. They are also non-redundant, which means they cannot be removed without costly temporary support of the bridge to maintain stability. The existing foundation details are unknown, and it is unlikely that the 90-year-old foundations buried under the ground where we can't access would be known to be able to accommodate the raise in profile required to improve hydraulics and the resulting increased loads from abutment modifications to achieve that. Now, the abutment is the foundation supports on either side of the bridge. It's just a technical term. The foundations would need to be replaced, which cannot be done with the existing bridge remaining in place. And given the poor condition of the girders and inadequate foundations, only a full bridge replacement is really feasible. A partial superstructure rehabilitation like this is not a viable alternative. The cost and short lifespan make this option economically infeasible. And the fourth option is replacement on new alignment. And this option would have similar attributes to the replacement on existing alignment mentioned earlier. It would have an increased lifespan, be longer, wider, and with similar steel and concrete superstructure options available. The new bridge will be built south of the existing bridge. Now, while it would avoid a temporary detour during construction, the new alignment would move the bridge outside of county property, requiring a costly and time-consuming land purchase from New York City Department of Environmental Protection, which is the owner of the land either side of the bridge, either side of county property. Environmental impacts would also be higher, as the new alignment would pass through existing green space and wildlife habitats. With a new alignment, the two intersections either side of the bridge would require substantial reconstruction and realignment, especially that intersection of Cherry Hill Road with Drewville Road. Most critically, the new southern alignment option would conflict with the high voltage electrical transmission lines running along the south side of Drewville Road. These lines cannot be relocated, therefore this is not a viable alternative. I'll now proceed with a more detailed discussion of the proposed bridge. So you'll see the drawing in front of you. This general plan of the project shows the preferred alternative, which is replacement on the existing alignment. Here you can see Drewville Road running from east to west across the bridge. Bridge is right here, with the Seminary Hill intersection to the east. And if you can see my mouse there, and also on the Cherry Hill Road intersection to the west of the bridge, heading south. The proposed bridge will shift the roadway alignment slightly to the north, so just about 5 feet this way. It's important to note that New York City Department of Environmental Protection is the only property owner that will be directly affected by the construction work. So there's something called the highway boundary, which is adjacent to the road on both sides, and beyond that is NYC DEP property. Another item to note is to raise the bridge further above the river to avoid flood damage, we're raising it about 3 feet. The elevation of the roadway profile, not just on the bridge, but also either side of the bridge, will also need to be raised. So that leads to the necessity for roadway reconstruction extending into both intersections. So the Seminary Hill Road intersection and also the Drewville Road intersection. So this drawing, if you can see it just too closely, this drawing shows an elevation view of the two superstructure options under consideration. So the steel girder and the concrete box beam. Steel girder is on the top, concrete box beam is on the bottom. The proposed bridge will be longer, increasing the span from 68 feet to 90 feet. So if you see here, the existing span is from here on one side to this side, it's about 68 feet. And the new bridge will be built, raised up about 3 feet, and it'll be much longer on either side. So this creates a larger hydraulic opening. So the existing bridge abutments will remain. Paul mentioned that earlier. And this will be to protect the new abutments and channel the river in normal flow conditions. They'll act as a wall just in front of the foundations of the new bridge. So you can see in the drawing how much lower the existing bridge foundations are and how much narrower the span is. So our new longer bridge with the raised profile will, like I said, increase the hydraulic opening, and that will have the consequence of reducing the depth of the river in flood conditions. So the wider you make the channel, the less deep the river will be when it's in flood. So this will mitigate the risk of both bridge damage and overall flooding of Drewville Road adjacent to the bridge. So this drawing shows two cross-section options for the proposed bridge. Steel girders again on top and concrete box beams on the bottom. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steel girders. So this is if you took a slice right through the bridge, this is the view that you would see. On the bottom here is the box beams. So there's about 8 box beams. And unlike the existing bridge, which only has 2 girders, the new structure will feature a redundant design with many girders or many box beams, which increases the safety and the reliability of the bridge. So if there's an issue with one girder, the rest of the items are redundant. The load will be able to be shifted to them, and they can take the weight of the bridge. The current 21-foot roadway width will be increased to 30 feet, and this will meet modern design standards. And as Paul mentioned earlier, the wider driving lanes and 4-foot shoulders will provide better accommodations for motorists, cyclists, and pedestrians, so the whole community. The decision on the exact choice of bridge superstructure type will be made in the later design phases, so whether we'll go with steel or concrete. On another note, stormwater will be collected on the bridge by the curbs, and it'll be redirected off the bridge to dry swales on either side of the bridge. Okay, so that's the description of the proposed bridge. And so our next consideration is how traffic is maintained during construction of the proposed bridge. The technical term for this is work zone traffic control. And for this, we have 3 options. The first is staged construction, where the bridge is built sequentially in 2 halves. The next is the on-site detour, where a temporary bridge is built adjacent to the existing bridge. And finally, the off-site detour is where traffic is diverted away from the project site, allowing construction to proceed quickly and without conflict. So in staged construction, the bridge would be constructed in 2 halves, 1 half at a time, keeping only 1 narrow lane open for traffic. Traffic signals are required for alternating one-way traffic, interrupting the flow of vehicles. A large temporary carrier beam, which is this here, placed in the median would allow the existing girders to be removed one at a time. Now this option is more time consuming and increases the 1-year construction duration to 2 years. And it also adds to project costs significantly. A staged approach for a bridge of this size will be unusual and technically challenging due to the need to maintain 2 adjacent roadway profiles, one which is 3 feet higher than the other. Relying on the remaining half of the existing bridge would also lead to structural concerns, as the heavily deteriorated bridge, as you saw earlier, would have much greater demands placed on it. For the on-site detour, a temporary bridge will be constructed next to the south side of the existing bridge. This may require closure of Cherry Hill Road during construction of the temporary bridge. And this option adds significant cost to the project, as you are building 2 bridges, but keeping only 1. So there's a lot of lost dollars in terms of investment. This option has similar drawbacks to the new bridge on a new alignment south of the bridge. It has greater environmental impacts, uses New York City Department of Environmental Protection property, which requires a costly land purchase, and also potential conflict with NYSEG high voltage lines. And as we mentioned earlier, these lines cannot be relocated. Therefore, this is not a viable alternative. We also looked at a temporary bridge to the north and had to dismiss that because of cost, significant environmental impacts, and the impacts to the Semery Hill Road intersection to the east. For the off-site detour, the bridge will be closed for 4 to 5 months while it is replaced. This method expedites construction and limits the work to just 1 construction season. As you can see on the map, traffic is directed away from the construction site. And the official detour is via Cherry Hill Road, Stebbins Road, West Shore Drive, and adds approximately 5 to 6 minutes journey time. We also expect that traffic from outside the area will use other routes to avoid the detour altogether. This option is the least cost, has less impact on the environment, and keeps traffic open in both directions. For those reasons, this is the option preferred by the county. So, infrastructure projects such as the bridge replacement require coordination with a number of stakeholders, as Paul mentioned earlier. The permitting process with various state agencies, such as US Army Corps of Engineers, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and NYC DEP, will ensure minimal impacts to the surrounding environment. This, in terms of legal environmental requirements, the project has been identified as a federal NEPA or National Environmental Policy Act D-list categorical exclusion project as documented in the project's Federal Environmental Approval Worksheet. In addition, all New York State Environmental Quality Review Act requirements, otherwise known as SECRA, have been met. Specifically, the project has been progressed as an unlisted action with the county designated as lead agency. After completing a full environmental assessment form and coordinating an agency review, a SECRA negative declaration was issued by the county. The county is currently coordinating right-of-way issues with New York City DEP, which is, as I mentioned earlier, is the only property owner directly affected by the work. As Paul mentioned earlier, the affected utility companies have been engaged, leading to the planned temporary relocation of low-level power lines from the north side of Drewville Road to the south side at the intersection with Cherry Hill Road. And for local residents and road users, a detour will be provided with the goal to minimize duration of construction. The work will also be coordinated with emergency services and Putnam Hospital Centre, and the county will ensure their access either side of the project is maintained. Okay, in summary, the existing bridge is deteriorating and functionally obsolete, and it needs to be replaced. The proposed bridge will meet design objectives, providing a safe bridge that meets current engineering standards. An off-site detour will be utilised during construction to minimise construction duration. Coordination with stakeholders will be ongoing throughout the detailed design stage and construction. Now, this concludes the technical portion of the public information meeting. As noted before, an important aspect of this meeting is receiving comments and questions from the general public regarding the project. For people attending this meeting on Zoom, prior to the meeting, you were provided an opportunity to register as a participant and indicate if you are interested in providing a verbal comment tonight. We have allotted 3 minutes for each individual to address this meeting. All statements and comments received will be addressed by the project team, and written responses to comments received tonight will be posted on the website by the county as necessary. With that, I'd like to turn the public comment portion of this meeting back to Alexis. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation tonight and your time. Well, I guess now we'd like to open the floor to anyone who may have some questions or comments. If there's anyone attending via Zoom who would like to ask a question or make a comment, I'd like to open the floor. No one? Okay, if there's anyone in person attending who would like to ask a question or make a comment.
No one here has a comment at this time.
Okay, then I would just like to remind everyone that you're able to make comments by emailing drewville.publichearing@putnamcountyny.gov. That's up on the screen right now, or feel free to mail your comments or questions into Commissioner Penna at the Department of Highways and Facilities. We'll also leave the ability to ask questions up through September 7th, and then we will post responses accordingly online. If there's nothing else this evening, then I'd like to thank everyone for attending and have a good evening.